allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this regular board meeting to order. Roll call shows everybody present. As the November 16th, 2017 regular board meeting minutes. Any corrections or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. November 16th, 2017 committee of the whole meeting minutes. Any corrections or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. And any agenda changes? I don't know of any. License and permits.
Operator's license number 101 for Rachel Bennett. This one has received a recommendation of denial from the police department.
Yeah, and Ms. Bennett's here tonight, and she's going to speak to the denial. I have to be cautious because I can't really release anything off of her record as to why it was denied. What I will say is that I followed the flow chart, and if I follow the flow chart, it would recommend a denial. So Ms. Bennett's going to speak about that, I believe, tonight in regards to why she feels she should be approved.
No action at this time.
Unless you wanted to allow Rachel Bennett to speak now so that you could see if you wanted to take, because you would have to take some action, either yes or no.
I did see him sign for pre-registered citizens, so.
Although this is also the period for licensing, so you could hear her now as well, because otherwise we'd have to put this item off until later in the agenda.
So I will be willing to allow him to speak.
Okay.
You just said 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. My explanation, I got a few tickets and I was living with my parents at the time. We didn't get along. Kind of did some stupid stuff, you know, when you're younger or whatever. I have bartending license elsewhere and nobody has ever had an issue. I work construction all summer long and I'm never in a bar. I don't drink. That's just my summer or my winter job when I get laid off from construction. A very, very dedicated hard worker. I think I should be approved for it. I haven't gotten in any trouble and I haven't lived with my parents in 2.5, almost 3 years now. I don't do anything to get myself into any trouble. Oh yeah, and the two, so technically there's 3 offenses on there, but 2 of them happened in the same night. So it was all the same type deal. So it wasn't 3 times that I got in trouble in the last 5 years. It was 2 tickets in one night.
What steps have you taken to address the problems you got into?
Well, I did take a alcohol class that was court ordered from it, and then I just don't drink anymore. I drank when I was younger, and like I said, I had a pretty rough home life, and kind of resulted to that. And I haven't lived with my parents in 3 years, and just I don't.
Anybody else have any questions for her at this time?
The flow chart is what we use to determine yes or no.
Correct.
Have we ever varied from it before?
Not that I'm aware of. You know, since I've taken this over, this has been the first situation where I've come across one that's been a denial.
Is this a, this isn't, what's the word, it's not an ordinance, it's a outline?
Yes.
Or is it a policy, or is it a guideline, or what would we consider this to be?
just guidelines, as far as I know. And what she's speaking to is that, you know, we follow this more than two, but she has this incident that it was 2 violations within the same evening.
If
And
the
so-
2 tickets in the one night would have been 1 offense, I would pass the,
But to answer your question, yes, that's what I know it to be as guidelines. We don't have specific ordinance that spells that out. So that's just what I follow to determine and then bring it to you.
Yeah, I don't want us to get into the appeal tonight. I just asked Lynn what the procedure is here. So on the denial, if there's an initial denial, then Lynn will write a letter. And the letter will indicate that there's appeal rights. Okay. So then if she wishes, she may appeal, and that appeal will come in front of you. So I don't think we're ready to hear appeal tonight. I think it's premature.
Cart before the horse.
I think so, because we can't really get into the merits.
But now with an appeal, can there be like a probationary license that's issued type of thing, like a probationary period? Or something like that?
There isn't any provision
Not
for that in
on
state
operator's
statutes, no.
license.
Just to try, you know.
No, I don't think so on operators.
I think it's worth, I think it would be worth an appeal to bring before us and let us discuss. If that's, you know, I mean, yeah, there is a, this is government.
Yeah, it's just not on the agenda
Just to go
tonight
through these
for,
steps.
to get into the merits, but the next time, it would be prudent, it seems to me, if you appeal, and there would need to be a discussion of exactly what happened and, you know, why that shouldn't concern the board. Okay? And then that could be, that'd be in a different setting maybe too. It wouldn't have to be in the open hearing here.
I think it's their choice, but I'd have to check the letter.
Yeah, so, okay?
So then we need an approval. We need a
Either
motion to
denial
approve the
or
denial.
Either you would either deny the license or you would approve the license.
If we don't make a motion to approve, then it just goes,
No, you have to make a
we
decision.
have to make a motion to either deny or, okay, I'm sorry.
But denying it lets her go on to the next step.
Okay. Then I would make a motion to deny based on you coming back with it. Not, I just want to make a motion to deny. Sorry.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that. It's fair.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The license is denied. We will probably be seeking for an appeal, I imagine.
Will she know, if she can check with you, Lynn, to see what the process is?
I'm not going to be here tomorrow, but the letter that I send out early next week will have all of the information in it.
That she needs to fill out. and-
That she would need to follow up with.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm talking, but, so if she does this appeal, does she need to come back to a board meeting? I mean, obviously, there's issues where he can't talk about what's going on, if she, you know, because of privacy things, so is it a closed session?
We don't deny that many, so I have to look at it myself.
I guess you know, because this is going by a cookie cutter standard where not everybody's the same. That's,
That's why the appeal process is
Yes.
there.
okay.
Yeah, we could get into those
Right.
particulars in the appeal process.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Pre-registered citizens to be heard.
Lynn, I think if it's us two, we can just,
Did either one of you have anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Committee reports, I see we have none. Unfinished business, I see we have none there also, so we'll move on to new business. 2018 Property and Liability Insurance, League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
And I'll start it out and then I'll turn it over. As McClellan represents, or is contract, I guess you could say, with the League of Municipalities and provides property and liability insurance to a lot of the member communities in the League of Municipalities. And I met with Sherry and...
Phil.
Thank you, Phil. And Phil, and we went over what the village has for property and liability insurance currently, and then they provided a quote on it. So I'll turn it over to them, and then when they're done, then I'll speak a little towards the budget part of it, so.
Thank you very much.
You did get a, kind of a summary, some information in your packets about it. And then also the memo that I just passed around, the first part on the memo is talking about the insurance, what we currently pay and that type of stuff, so you have that in front of you as well.
Okay. Thank you for having us. We do represent the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and our territory, we have all of Door County down to Sheboygan County, all the way up to Shawano, and then over to Fond du Lac. The league actually, of the league members, there's currently 635 members of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, you being one of them, and the league's program insures about 430 of those members. So the vast majority are members. The only insurance that the league provides is to municipalities, villages and cities only, as well as utilities or fire departments that serve those municipalities. So that's the limit of the exposure. They don't do any school districts or anything else. So it's essentially a captive program that is owned and directed by the league. All the board of directors on the program are either village or city officials, and serving terms as the board. The program has been in place since 1984. Just excellent results. And the thing that they really key on is providing coverages that probably aren't available through all the standard carriers out there at a very competitive price with great price stability. So I'll tell you, as we stand before you, the numbers that we're going to give you are going to be reflective of what they would look on renewal next year. We don't do come in low and crank it up the second year. It's extremely well managed. The other thing that the league really prides itself in is they don't nickel and dime you during the year. And a couple of the benefits I'll touch on, things like if you add autos, change autos, do that during the year, there's no increased premiums because you just traded out a 1986 pickup truck and replaced it with a new model. The premiums stay the same for the current year. The same thing is on property. If you even add or build a new property during the year, we don't charge you on that until the next year and you can get it into your budget. So it isn't that we go back and audit it and get the money back. Your budget for the year becomes the year. The only exception of that, of course, is workers' comp. That is auditable per the state. And they will always look at your payrolls at the end of the year versus what your estimates were. So that piece we have no control over in terms of how the pricing works. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes?
Who insures us right now? You guys?
Right now we're with EMC.
And EMC is a commercial carrier, which we also represent. Most EMC writes some municipalities in the state. They're probably the second or third largest writer behind the league.
They do towns as well.
Mostly we use them on towns because this program isn't available to towns, so we use EMC.
What's the difference between a town and a municipality?
It's the way the filing is with the insurance commissioner. As a captive, you have to define the market you're able to sell.
They have their own association, the towns.
Yeah, the towns have their own association, they have their own program, and rural does actually a program for them. But rural is selling that as rural versus this program is owned and managed by the league, so it's actually written on league paper. Okay. A couple things, everybody wants to start with the price. Premium-wise, unless you're going to go through all that?
You can go ahead.
And the numbers, my numbers I'm looking at might be slightly different, so.
But we got the same.
Yeah, okay, overall, last year, your insurance premiums came out about $64,000 and some change. The proposal we've got coming in here is just under $58,000. There's a couple things going on there. Most of it is because of cost reductions with the league program, but some of it is because rates have been reduced in workers' comp. And again, the rates from comp are set by the Comp Bureau. So of the $6,000 roughly in savings, about 2,000 of that is coming from rate relief from the Workers' Comp Bureau. About 4,000 is because of our program.
But they wouldn't change that till May, the work comp.
Yes. What we are suggesting that you do is, right now, your work comp program you have with EMC does pay a dividend.
to qualify for your dividend, you have to stay in the program for the full year. We're actually, so we would suggest you stay with your current comp carrier, don't sacrifice your dividend, and then we would bring you in on the work comp side into the leak program in May. And then we've got the ability, we could set that as a short-term policy the first year, so everything gets on the January 1st timetable going forward.
And if I could just interject on this, is right now we have a May 1 renewal date for our insurance, and if we can switch it to a calendar year, it will make budgeting a lot easier, because right now what we have to do, just like our health insurance, is we base the budget on 5 months, in the case of our property and liability insurance, 5 months of the known premium, of what we know we're going to get, and then we have to speculate on how much it's going to be for the other 8 months, 7 months. So by going to calendar year, we will know what our premium is for the next budget year by the time we're working on the budget. So it won't require as much speculation on our part.
And the savings that we're talking about getting you will be realizable right away in January on the program. And again, the comp is the comp, that's set by the state, but the savings that we're going to generate, you'll start to realize January 1st.
All right, so just to make, just to cut to the chase, it's cheaper, the coverage is the same?
Better.
Actually, the coverage is better.
Right.
Okay.
And
Why wouldn't we do this?
I can't think of any reason why not.
I guess, and I don't want to waste a lot of people's time, but I don't know that we need to listen to this gentleman tell us how great this is. And not that I don't want to listen to you tell me how great this is.
I've been talking here a long time.
So is this a move to approve?
There are a couple things though, and this is the reason why I asked them to come here, is because there are a couple different decisions that we need to make where there's potential additional coverages.
There's some couple options.
I have no problem with, if you want to
Let's just
have
get
me.
to that.
Excuse me? Okay.
Let's get to that.
All right.
I mean, unless you guys want to, okay.
Okay, this is, well, you can all read this,
Yeah.
Right.
and so I won't read it to you. In the middle, it says true replacement cost coverage on all vehicles, and then the no charges, which I talked about. Right now, you have an ACV policy. If you total out a vehicle, that 1986 vehicle that you haven't replaced yet, they're gonna pay you whatever that blue book is on that vehicle. For an additional premium of $858 a year, we can do true replacement costs on all your fleet. So if you were to total that vehicle, 1986 vehicle, you would get a brand new 2018 vehicle with all permanently attached, if it's a cop, if it's a police car, the lights, the cage, the graphics, everything on there. And so, again, some of the savings that you have here, I would suggest you go with the replacement cost. Almost every one, if not every one of our insureds, and Sherry and I work with 85 villages and cities, they all go with replacement costs. And all you need is that one total, and you'd be very glad you did.
So right now you have about a $6,000 difference between what we currently pay and what you're proposing?
And
so you want to add another 800 to that?
Correct.
Is it on purpose?
So you lose a little bit of that 6,000 savings.
Who's this underwritten by?
It's underwritten by the league. Right there, and they write the paper, and then the reinsurance includes Lloyd's of London, and it's a full conglomerate.
So it's a multiple.
Yeah, it's a layered program. And that's the way that captives normally are set up. The other element that there's an option, is currently you have a $2 million liability limit. You have a $1 million underlying, and then a $1 million umbrella. We actually write all lines with a single limit that then it goes across all lines. For a community of your size, we actually believe $2 million is thin. I'd say most communities are in the $3 million to $6 million range. And the league in the last 2 years has paid 3 or 4 claims now that have been between $2 and $3 million. There's been several 2.5, a 2.8, there's some other things pending that are probably going to be in that same range. Right now, if you were to have one of those claims, if you went with us, you would get a letter of reservation of rights saying this claim might exceed your limit. We've seen reservation of rights letter. It's a letter that nobody ever wants to get. For $500 a year, you can raise your limit to a $3 million limit. And that would be my recommendation. For $1,000 a year, you could go to a $4 million limit. I'm just saying, in the history of the league, since 1984, the claims over $2 million have just started in the last 2 years. So, but you're in an area that we are seeing claims activity paying out those kind of numbers. So I would recommend that you go to at least a $3 million limit.
So currently we're $1 million?
We currently have 2.
Oh, 2?
Yeah, we're 1 plus 1, and then, so yeah, but 2. So.
And your proposal is based on 2 million?
And our proposal is based on.
Across the board?
Correct. No, yeah, right, and it would raise everything across the board to 3.
For an additional?
For $500 a year, flat.
Now we're talking the same.
Now we're talking, what?
Yeah, so,
5,800.
yeah, so you're shooting into the savings a little bit, but you're
Yeah, increasing coverage.
increasing the coverage.
Plus, we don't have deductibles
Yeah,
either.
right. The one area that we do cover and your current program doesn't, I don't believe, is in the area of, I'm losing the term, on the police, yeah, punitive damages on police professional claims. Unfortunately, we've all seen the news here the last year or two. You get the wrong situation of an arrest being made and somebody is claiming discrimination, those automatically go into federal courts. You don't have the state statutory protections. There's no limit to how much those can pay. And in addition, even on the civil cases, they're asking for punitive damages. And again, opens it up to even higher limits. You currently don't have, I don't believe, you don't have punitive damage coverage today. Our program doesn't exclude it, it's included. But if you ever have a situation, and that's where we see them in law enforcement, that you can start to see these over $2 million situations, that's where it comes from.
The other part, could you touch on quickly with them is the let's say a disaster, for example, a tornado,
Yes.
and
The other thing that the league does in its program, beyond the insurance will pay for replacing your buildings, rebuilding, taking care of it. But the league is also contracted with a firm, it's called Agility, and it used to be GE Disaster Recovery's business. GE formed a business that protected all of its businesses in the event that they would have a major disaster at a plastics plant, at their locomotive plant, whatever. And what they did is they set up warehouses around the country that have servers, temporary shelters, uplinks, generators, power equipment that they can dispatch on very short notice to get their facilities up and running. GE sold the division about 5 or 6 years ago. They became a freestanding company called Agility. And the league is contracted with them that if there was ever any kind of a natural disaster or man-made disaster, something that shut down your power, your communications, affected your ability to provide your essential municipal services, you get an 800 number you call, they promise, and they've never failed to promise, within 24 to 48 hours, they'll have all your critical infrastructure back up and running for you. That is paid for. The league's program is the only one available in the state. We have a $10 million extra expense limit built in for this purpose. So the money to pay for those, bringing in the temporary shelters, the generators and all that is paid out of this extra expense limit. Again, the league, what they felt is, if we can't provide something better, then you can just go buy in the open market. Why are we here? So that's why they built in these type of provisions and safeguards into the program. The state of Kentucky has the same program. A few years back, they had one of the worst ice storms go across the state in history. And their captive program also was a member of this. They had communities with over 4 inches of solid ice, took out all their power lines, their grids, made the roads impassable. And I can show you a video if you're interested. I don't want to take up too much time, but they have the mayor saying, "Oh my God, we would never have been able to accomplish and get back up if we hadn't had this program." It's something you hope you never use. Insurance generally is, but if you ever needed it, it would be a godsend, is I guess the best way to put it. So.
What is our deductible right now?
For liability, I believe it's $2,500, and I don't recall what it is for the vehicles offhand, but the liability is $2,500, and this one is $0.
Yeah, on any of your, and it actually varies depending on the type of claim, but on any of your liability losses, you're at least a $1,000 deductible. we have first dollar coverage across the board.
I'm thinking, I was thinking.
You're looking for a motion to approve?
Wait, if I may,
Of course.
before you make a motion. I'm particularly interested in one of these bullet points that says automatic coverage at no charge for special events, fireworks and liquor liability.
Correct. That extends.
I wanted to black that out and not show you.
I'll second that.
That extends to you. Now, if you're having a festival and somebody is serving liquor, all right, and there's an accident or a horrific injury it involves, if you get named in that suit because you issued the license, we're going to defend you.
Right.
All right? We're not going to defend the party that did the service.
They would have their
They
own.
have their own insurance.
Correct.
Same thing on fireworks. Your fireworks shooters should have their own insurance.
Right.
But Elkhart Lake, they had one of their public displays, a shell went into a wedding party, and the bride took it.
Okay, and I agree with you, but as it stands now, I don't think there's any coverage for special events. I think you had to list them.
You have to purchase it
In
signed.
this case, we don't have to list them during the policy term.
Yep.
If one of the facilities, one of the parks is being used by a nonprofit organization,
And they do fireworks?
and, or whatever, they're
Yep.
serving liquor,
Yep.
and they have their own insurance, liquor liability. If anything happens, the village is covered.
Correct.
Okay.
If the village is named in something and the village.
Yeah,
is-
right, and they would be.
Right.
I mean, they
This is legal liability.
would probably go for deep pockets.
But you have defense even on an accusation.
Okay, excellent. Because I know we had to list it before.
Right.
Yes.
We knew we had to pay for it.
Yes, we
Right.
do.
Okay, good.
And again, that's part of that philosophy of not nickel and diming it or anything.
Right.
It's just included.
Then I would make a motion to approve the use of
The League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
the League of Wisconsin Municipalities for liability and property insurance for 2018.
Before I second that,
Okay.
I have a question too, real quick.
Well, what would I do?
Well, with any changes to the...
I was just gonna add
The
this.
add-ons.
Sorry, yes, with
I want him, before you do that, if I may, so far there are 2 add-ons. Are there any other ones that you didn't?
I've got a couple freebies to throw.
Well, no, the freebies are,
No,
I'm talking about
Those
expenditures.
were the only two.
So what are we up to?
those are the two.
The 58, a little less than 58 plus the 6.
I had it would be an additional $1,358 on top of.
For the 2 additions,
Right,
on top of the 50,
57,904.
what is the total of that? Do you want to bring that up?
Well, it would be $13.58 for the replacement coverage of the autos and for the $3 million in liability.
Correct.
Is how much?
$13.58.
Right.
Together.
In addition to the 57,
5709. 57,904.
We're basically
Workers-
75,000.
And then,
Workers' comp, do we need to say something special about the workers' comp? Because we're not taking that right now, but then looking at that, I mean, we'll need to make a motion.
well, I would suggest that you say then, and we'll maintain our current workers' comp policy till May 1st, at which time we'll bring that to the league as well.
Okay, and this price
Just pretend
that
I
we're
just
getting
said
is
that.
quoted for the workers' comp.
Yes.
Okay, and it'll be prorated then from May to, you said a
So
special.
I'm going forward, we make that adjustment.
Okay.
Yes,
Wanna make sure.
we get everything annualized to these numbers.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Lynn, are you okay?
All right, the one special I'm going to tell you about, it's the last thing on the bottom. This year, we're giving a $500 grant for safety equipment to be used somewhere within your organization. It's usually Public Works or in police is where the money normally is spent. And we'll do $500 and that will be matched on up to, you have to provide 25% additional. So it would be like $625 you spend, we'll send you a check for $500. It's for safety equipment that you currently don't have, but it's on your wish list. It's something, we should have one of these, we should have that. It's not a big deal of money, but
It's big to us.
it's something, and because again, our whole thing is, we want your employees to go home at night without injuries if at all possible. So that's there, you guys can figure out how you're gonna work with that.
I'll sit between.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll call you then. All right, thank you guys. Before we move on, I just want to kind of finish up a little bit here, is just to show you that the budget, the numbers that we were talking about here was the actual premium that we've been paying versus what the actual would be here. And I just wanted to point out to you that for the 2018 budget, we had built in somewhat of a cushion on that with an assumption that it would increase in May. So the savings to the 2018 budget are $11,000. And then if you taking off the 1,800 that they talked about. So I just wanted to point that out, that we did build in a cushion on that in 2018, so we've got a little more wiggle room in that 2018, and Carl and I already have that spent, so.
How did we fall into this? Did they contact us?
They contacted me and asked me if I meet with them.
Okay.
And this is the one too, Jack, I mentioned that they do a lot of fire districts, and this also came up when the gentleman who did the appraisal on the fire district had told me about them as well.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of in my brain, and then I think he contacted them, so it came together well.
Thank you.
Moving on. Topographic survey services for Michael Richter Street Extension.
I'll take this. As we move forward with the Commonwealth Development project, looks like it might be moving forward faster than the weather is cooperating with. Anyways, in order to properly plan and engineer utilities, the road, services for that property, the engineering for Michael Richter, we need to go in and have the topographical survey done, hopefully prior to when the snow flies. So this is something we kind of want to rush through. Hopefully by Monday. Yeah. Anyways, we have the funds to pay for this, in either the water sewer extension fund or the system improvement fund. But we're okay there. It's something that we need to do sooner than later. If we wait too many more weeks, we'll be trudging around out there and put her to the snow, I'm sure. So. And like I said, it looks like Commonwealth is moving forward fast, and this is a part of the process, something we're going to have to do, and it's better to do it early than late.
And actually, that's something we could pay for with TID financing. That's in the TID, and that is a chargeable project.
Yeah, so it won't be coming out of the budget.
$1,900?
Yeah.
So you just need to get approval tonight so we can get going?
Yeah, I'd like to get it signed tonight and out.
Well, make a motion to approve. Second. I don't know if I need to be more
Who
specific.
was the second?
Jack?
Jack. Do you need to be more specific? No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. R-24-17 resolution adopting 2018 water and sewer utility budgets.
This is, the utility budgets were something that the village board committee of the whole had discussed at the last meeting. The only change in the budget from that meeting was what was discussed. It's switching $2,500 from one account to another, moving some of the well provisions, and this resolution makes the budget formal.
Those insurance savings, I'm not going to touch them, I'll just leave them right. The insurance on the utility side. We're going to realize some insurance savings.
Oh, okay. Based on what we just did tonight, but we're not going to adjust the budget at this point for that.
You already said you spent the money, so.
Not on the utility side. We only spent the money on the village side.
I'll make a motion to approve our 24/7.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. R-25-17 resolution to limit property tax refunds based on the amount of the overpayment.
This is something that has come up in a lot of municipalities. It's been something that a lot of municipalities have had in place for quite some time. When we have small overpayments with people sending in mortgage checks or something like that, as most of you would realize, I shouldn't say most of you, as all of you would realize, it costs a fair piece of money in order to cut this check and get it out the door. We don't realize any benefit to the village by sending out small refunds. Now, this is something where this only applies if the resident does not request a refund. If you get something in from a mortgage company, there's an overpayment and nobody's requesting the refund, and it's $5 or less, we wouldn't send it out. If the property owner requests the refund of the overpayment, by state law, it gets made. So this is not something where we deny somebody's request.
If the overpayment's $1.50, do you still send it out?
59 cents.
59 cents.
We send it out for anything.
So this just limits it to $5 a month.
Limits it to $5 as long as we don't get a request from the property owner to receive the money.
So automatically, anything over 5 you would send back?
Yes.
Unless I call you and say, I want my $4.10.
35 cents.
Okay.
Well, if it's you,
Yeah, right. I'll make a motion to approve R25-17.
Before, there's just one little typographical error on there, Lynn.
There is no typographical error in the actual one because
Okay.
Kelly was kind enough to point it out to me.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's never confused with 5,000.
I was talking to Jeannie yesterday, a 0 here, a 0 there.
0, 0 there, okay. I'll second that, Peter.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Approved. Personnel records management policy.
And I did make one small change after I sent it to you. Bob and I talked about it, and that is under 2, letter C has the words "the employees department head" added in, and G has been eliminated. So if you recall, when we've been talking about this a while ago of working on a personnel record.
Excuse me, H is,
Oh, yes, 8, okay.
H on.
Yeah, my numbers got different, so H has been eliminated, and then I'll get you a clean copy. So we had talked about this a while ago, is we have come to realize that a couple things with our record management system is, one is that they're scattered, the library has theirs, the police department has theirs, and the others are in admin, and organizationally, they should all be kept in the same place, the official records. Those official records also should be limited on what is contained in them for, basically for liability is a big one, because, you know, if you have things that aren't in them, and we do have instances of that, then, you know, we're supposed to have just very specific things in them, and some things are supposed to be separated out. So this follows, some of the things are very prescriptive by state law, such as how the process for an employee to be able to review their records. That is very prescriptive right out of state statute. The other stuff, the other information on it is best practice, but not prescribed by state statute. So this is by going through and implementing, putting in the state statute part of it, and then kind of taking a gauge on what is considered best practices for the different ones, because they vary slightly. So I'm proposing that we adopt this policy, because right now, some of it is followed, but none of it is in writing. It's always been just verbal. So it's to formalize it in writing, and then also what I would like to do is start working on implementing it. And what I mean by that is that we do have files that have handwritten notes in it, just memos regarding the employees that the employees have never seen. So things like that really should not be in them. So I would like to start implementing this by eliminating those documents. And then as far as the time frame ones of them, for those that, we've got some that are 12 years old that we really only need to keep for like 3. I would also like to start getting rid of those. And I would contact the State Historical Society first and then begin shredding them. And one of the issues that you have, because some people think the law, you know, the more the better. That's not the instance in that case, because if we keep personnel records for longer than what we really need them, then as long as we have them, they're disposable. So if we get an open records request, that can be very burdensome if we're going through employee records from 15 years ago because we just never bothered to get rid of them. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the policy, and then also I'm just notifying you that I intend to start implementing it soon.
Bob, you weighed in on this?
Yeah, I reviewed it, and with the changes that were proposed, I think that's sound. You know, the change we took out there, H, if you look at the reasons for, I mean, and the A through G above, I just don't see a need for H, and it raises other issues than, there should be more exceptions there. but there's going to be other times, say legal action, compliance with other laws. So it just seems if you read it as a whole, I don't think there's any need for the H on your initial draft. Okay?
I'll make a motion that the village adopt the employee records personnel file document as presented.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Adopt form for department head contracts.
Last year, we had talked about the new contracts for department heads, and at that time, we did not implement it. Since then, I know Bob had worked on it early in the year, and we had talked about looking at it at that time, and then said that we push it towards the end of the year, because that's when department head contracts are up for renewal. So because we're doing the department head evaluations this evening, we figured, Lynn reminded me of this, that we figured we better have the contract language ready. So this is what Bob had worked on during the year.
I have one question. Why do we go out to the 60 days for the employment has to give a notice of 60 days?
Well, I mean, it's just, that's a substantive decision you can make, but I think it was, that was considered to be for continuity purposes and planning purposes that you want at least that much notice. One can argue how much time is necessary if there's a change.
I guess if someone's starting a new job, is a new employer going to wait 60 days?
But this is the intention not to renew the employment. So you have a term, this contemplates, let's say you have a one-year term here. It's an employment contract, both sides obligated for 1 year, unless there's going to be a termination due to cause. But what we're saying there is it's 1 year periods, so it automatically renews unless you give a 60-day notice. So, you would, being in the calendar year contract, presumably, you'd have to give notice by what, November 1st?
And as far as,
Say that I'm not gonna be here, I'm at the end of the year, I'm going.
and that's not, for department heads, for that position, it's not uncommon for 60 days. I actually recently saw one that was 90 days. So it's typically 30 to 90 is what I've seen. Different for, line employees, but for department heads and management, usually it's in that, so. But that's, whatever you guys.
You were talking about the end of the contract year, that would also apply in the middle of the contract year.
Well, it could apply anytime.
Yeah.
Right.
It's basically saying, you typically hear 2 weeks notice, this is 60 days notice.
If they wanted to take other employment, they'd have to first honor the contract if it said it goes to the end of the year. Now, it's hard to enforce that a lot of times. If the employee quits, does the employer chase him for breach of contract? I know what you're saying.
Right.
But,
So how much do you stick to this 60 days?
I'd rather have it in there than just let it be.
If it's safe.
It's a good gesture is if you're not going to renew your contract, you've got it, you're giving a couple of months, which plans ahead.
Gives us time to find something.
Yeah.
And with the way it reads, it says either party, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it goes the other direction.
So like you said, I think we're going to chase somebody today.
Should 5B be a little more definitive?
Good cause is, I think there's enough case law in that, Peter, it'd be pretty thick treated, it says, it just depends on the facts of the case as to what the cause would be. So I think that's a definitive enough legal term.
Like I say, most I've seen said for just cause. Good, just cause, same thing.
Yeah, it's construed the same.
So we're looking for a motion on this? Do we want to make one?
Yes.
I'll make a motion. Somebody else said anything?
We have a second.
I'll second it.
All you said was I'll make a motion.
To approve. Sorry.
I'll second it.
Let you know.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion?
I had a real estate agent that has some property listed that offered it to the village today. So, I could get that on the agenda, so it's something that I think we need to put on a future agenda.
For free?
Possibly.
Oh, okay.
Even better.
I have one also. The disposition of the property that I think the village owns, but the house that's inhabited by Sharon Johnson, or Sharon Steiner Johnson. I'd like to know the status of that and what our intentions are.
We will have that for future discussion.
Oh, and since we're at, I'm not gonna be here for the first meeting in January. And I will not be available by phone.
That's our party.
Any other topics for future discussion? Hearing none, report of village officials, administrator.
Police chief update, just letting you know that we had 13 applicants, and I know, John, I had told you initially 14, but that was because I found out that one that was emailed to me was the same applicant as one that was mailed to me. So 13 applicants. The police commission is reviewing the applications in our meeting on December 12th. So that's all the information I have on it, just wanted you to know. Fire district appraisal. The appraisal was received and I distributed, or sent it to Hortonia. The appraisal does not include the actual building or the property. They only do equipment, trucks and so forth. And so the information that I showed you on here, the building on there is from our audit. So it's really not, like an actual value. What it is based on it was based on the loan information, so the actual construction costs. So I don't have a value on it. I'm not sure what the insurance, the fire district's property and liability insurance might have some estimate on it. But anyway, so here's the value of it. Hortonia has it, and I guess the next thing is to figure out what the next steps are. I'm guessing, maybe Al, if you want to call Bob from Hortonia, or if you'd like me to find out what they want to do next.
I will.
Okay. Highway 15 updates. The utilities and other work continues on schedule, and Mark Ramlow of the Fox Cities Chamber, not the Fox West Chamber, but the bigger Fox Cities Chamber. He's the Vice President of Public Policy and Government Relations, and he met with me because they are working on getting their businesses, member businesses, to support the Highway 15. They're getting them writing letters and so forth. And then he came here to talk to me to find out about our commitment to Highway 15, and that in January or February, based on the schedule of everything, that we'll be doing another trip to Madison to try to encourage DOT and the governor to put this as a high priority. So we're going to be mobilizing for that, so after the new year. And he's got quite a few large businesses that have, significant businesses in the Fox Valley that have already voiced their support in forms of letters. So just letting you know that it's kind of, it's not dead. Neither the Highway 15 project is, nor is the effort. It's just that right now it's strategic on the timing of it, because that's when they start gearing up again. So just wanted to give you the update. And right now, it's just, as I said, and I know Carl has talked to some people on it too, is that the utilities are just plugging along, just no different than what they did before. So the utilities and all of the other stuff is still on the schedule that it was before. So money's still being spent on it.
Diane, did you ever hear from Mr. Coles or Mr. Talkin?
No. Nope.
How long ago was it that we requested?
That was when that was when the House was still meeting about it and going with their budget. It was before the state budget was even approved. I did hear from Murphy, I heard from Steinke, and I heard from Roth's office, but not him, but I never heard anything back from Tauken or Cowles.
So both of our representatives have been completely silent.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you want to try Coles again, Bob Coles?
No, maybe John will.
I know him very well.
Yeah, really.
I do.
Well, he needs a call. He needs a
I
call.
would be more than happy to, if with your approval.
Well, I've emailed him as well, so if you can do better, that'd be great.
You've never heard from him either?
No, have not.
And I have heard from other organizations, when I've been out and about, Allegheny County and even this, I think Mark, from Fox, the Fox Cities Chamber, I think he was the one too, but I'm not sure who. But basically, I've been told that they're both not really willing to cross the line and put their toe in the water on it. They're not saying anything either way.
Bob Coles is a Vietnam vet, and he was very instrumental working with me on the input on building the Armitage House in Green Bay back in the early 90s. So I know him very well.
Good.
If it's okay with you, I will work with her.
I think everyone here as a citizen has the right and the privilege to contact our representatives, and not just as board members, but as...
Personally?
Yeah, this impacts all of us.
Okay.
And they're our representatives.
We'll get on a conference call.
Okay. The next thing that I'm passing around you is the Commonwealth cottages on Main. Carl had mentioned this earlier with the total study. It's taken a while as they were getting their stuff together with the tax credits and so forth, but now they're ready to move forward. This is the latest draft that we've gotten. The difference is that right now it shows the driveway accessing off of Michael Richter. I have changed that, and they are going to be accessing off of Main Street, and there will not be direct access onto Michael Richter. However, we still need Michael Richter built because we need it for the utilities, and we've always had it planned to be built. So we intend to keep moving forward with that. And the thing on the Commonwealth is that they intend to start building in spring of 2018, and they said that they would need to be ready to hook up to sewer and water in September. So this is going to be something we need to start moving on for the construction of Michael Richter, and as we mentioned before, this is something that is accessible. In looking up the documents for the right for assessment, is that all of the original lots in Parker Heights is accessible at an equal amount. So it's by original lot, not by frontage or anything like that, and if you combine lots, it doesn't matter, it's the original lots. So we're going to need to start moving forward on working out, both the engineering and all the stuff to get it going, but also the finances on it for the assessment. The original one, this is what I had, this is what they showed me last year, and I think this is, the new plan is going to be much better received by residents in the area, and the reason being is because this was originally a 30-unit apartment building, and then this was 10 cottage-style units, and the only access was on Michael Richter. Now, there's going to be 4 buildings total. 2 of them are, and each one has 10 units in it. 2 buildings are 2-story townhomes, and 2 buildings are single-story cottage-style. And then all of the access is on Main Street. And I have notified them, I said we don't have an issue with it being accessed only on Main Street. Frankly, I think the neighbors here are gonna like that better. But I did put in writing to let them know, I wanna make sure that they're fully aware that there are 16,000 vehicles going past there every day until the bypass. So, because I just think that the people coming and going in and out of there might not be so happy, but
Diane?
yes.
What are all those little access areas coming from the townhouse apartment buildings? Sidewalks? Okay.
Oh, yeah, sidewalks. So, that's it, just catching you up on all of that stuff. Right now, the estimate that we have from Michael Richter Extension, which includes the sewer, water, and the road, is $361,000.
Has this property owner called you?
About this,
Mhm.
not to my knowledge, I haven't.
Call me a few things. What do you-
Yeah, not
Oh,
about
really?
this.
Not about this.
That was about having to
concerns
clear some
are-
road, right?
She still thinks this is low-income housing.
It's affordable housing
Right,
and.
there's a difference.
Yes, so, and 50, what is it, 85% of the, units are affordable housing, and the other 15% is market rate. And, I mean, I've shown you guys the photos here, these are very nice
I know,
places.
they're very nice. I reassured her that it's not low-income housing.
Oh, and also on this part of it right here, that's gonna be a clubhouse, so they'll have exercise and different things like that. So this is, I mean, this is by default, 25% of the units are rented by seniors, just by the nature of the beast. So I think this is gonna end up being a very nice facility. And I will reiterate, as I have throughout this, that this is not a economic development project for the village. This is not a moneymaker for the village. This is a housing project.
These units are gonna get shifted over some. That was discussed during the last meeting. So they'll be a little further away from that property line.
Okay.
Okay, and then, unless there's any other questions, the next item on my list is the East Village Retail Center. I've been getting questions on that. I just want you to know it is still progressing. The developer right now is finalizing the securing of a anchor tenant. So that's what kind of held it up as they were negotiating and coming to a final agreement with an anchor tenant. It's planned to be constructed at frankly, about the same time that Commonwealth is, so with the intent that it'll start being built in next year, in 2018, in the spring. Then just a few little things, just to, so you know, we are still working on some violations, ordinance violations. Douglas Street, because I know I've gotten a lot of questions, and you may have gotten some complaints about that, right behind the wire factory. The home is now had gone into foreclosure, is owned by the bank, and Bob and I have been, and the PD have been working on that for quite some time. It's just always becomes more problematic when it's a foreclosure, so we are still working on that one. On Embarrass Street, there's the outdoor storage of junk in the unsafe structure, the house that had a fire recently. We're working on that as well, along with Paul Hanlon. And I was told recently, and I have not followed up with the property owner, but I was told that the resident that was living on the lower level street side on Main Street, that was a violation because we can't, that person has moved out of the home, or out of there, and that now it is vacant. So, and then lastly, the meal site is up and running. But we need to spread the word on it, because they are doing some home deliveries, but they are not getting people in for the congregate meal site. So trying to get that word out to the public.
And they were at Monday's group here talking to all of them, and they handed out all the information that they have, so the approximately 30 that were here for the seniors thing on Monday had gotten the information on the meal site also.
Has anybody brought your attention to what we used to call the flats down here in the backyard of the Catholic Church, that junk that's collected in the back and around the back of the building?
Cedar Street and Nash.
What is it?
Cedar Street and Nash.
Yeah, the corner
It's a
of,
quad.
yeah, we used to call it the flats.
I still call them flats.
I have
Yeah,
no idea.
okay.
No, I have not.
Nobody's brought, maybe you want to address that.
What's the issue?
The junk in the backyard that's collected back there. I think there's one or two vehicles. I think there's one vehicle that sits there permanently, never moves.
And I'll ask Carl. And that reminds me, we're also dealing with some abandoned vehicles. And then also abandoned, the furniture that's left in front of the apartment building on Lakeview. So those are all things, we've been getting a lot of complaints about things like that lately, so we're working on them, we're aware of them, just always takes time.
Add the flex to your list. Count on those. Thanks.
Anything else for Diane? Yeah, we'll move on to clerk treasurer.
We picked up the new election equipment last week Friday morning, turned in our old equipment for the money value that we had on that contract. So that is in place. We'll be getting training on that in early to mid-January, doing a mock election in March and using the equipment, I should say mock election in March, mock election in early February, and then we'll be using the equipment for the first time in later February.
Box Elderbuck.
Right in the year.
So the equipment is here, we'll be getting the bill in 2018, which is what we had planned on for the budget, so that is set, pretty much finished. The property bills, tax bills were mailed early this week. We mailed a little bit over 1,400 of them. Some of them were mailed in an envelope, as some people had enough bills to accumulate and save us postage in that direction. The spring election candidate deadlines, there are 3 positions on the village board that are open. They would be Julie's, Jackson, Jeannie's, the 3 J's. Makes it easy for me to remember. And candidates can come into the office to pick up paperwork. Packets are ready for them to pick up. Documentation does have to be back in our office by Tuesday, January 2nd. And the 3 candidates, I did give you a form last time. That was a non-candidacy form that I'm required to give to everybody, so don't construe it as any type of a hint. But if you are thinking about not running, I do need that back by December 22nd. It does not prevent you from running and filing paperwork, but if you decide not to run and you have not filed that paperwork, I have to hold things open for everybody else for another 3 days in January and try to get that announcement out. So if there's a possibility that you're not planning on running, please get it to me by the 22nd. And then the financial report was in your packets.
Questions for Lynn?
And what does the other amount on the tax bill, what is that?
Okay.
Gold Cross.
Yes, the other amount is the ambulance
Full price.
subsidy for
Okay.
$23.25 per unit.
I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't positive.
I was able to put the one-time recycling charge for the recycling carts under something that said it because they had a category for that one, but the ambulance subsidy is still problematic because I can't add more categories.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of calls.
Oh, we get calls on that one every year. We'll continue to answer it, but yes, so we expect that one.
Any other questions for Lynn? Hearing none, move on to Director of Public Works.
I have just a couple. The Wildland subdivision, the developers have met all the preliminary requirements for the issuance of building permits. Re-Energy should be wrapping up in the next week or so with the power install for the subdivision. So everything's moving along nicely. I believe there's been a few permits issued already. I thought
He
there were
was
2.
considering 3 single-family home permits this week. I don't know if they've actually come through yet or not.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so. Anyways, that's moving along nicely. The next one is a 2018 utility projects. I want to get an earlier jump on them this year or next year, now that we know how much money we're bringing in the System Improvement Fund. 2 of those projects are North Mill Street Sewer Main. That's basically from Porky's up to the top of the hill. It's in very bad shape, so I want to get that sewer main and those laterals replaced next year. North Pine Street, down by Jeannie's house, we still have that 4-inch water main that needs to come out of there. We're going to do that. That's a smaller project, but it's a 2/3 to full overlay on the street. The North Mill Street sewer main project, I estimate that at $110,000, including engineering. And the North Pine Street water main, I estimate that at about $63,000 to $65,000, including engineering and overlay. And if I still have some money left, depending on how those come in, I've got some repair work I need to do on the old South Lincoln Street. That's a gravel portion that runs down the Reinecke's. We actually own the easement through there and the sewer main that runs back in there, and it's in pretty rough shape. So if I've got a few thousand left over, I'm gonna go down and do that. And the only other thing I have is, we had some other communities that were thinking of starting a regional yard waste site. We would still maintain our own yard waste site, but it might be a potential source for hauling brush too. So, again, brush is getting harder to get rid of. So, anyways, that's still in preliminary negotiations.
Well, not negotiations, it wouldn't cost us anything to.
Yeah, well, sorry about
No
that.
capital investment.
It's in
on our
preliminary
part, so.
discussion by the other community. We're in no way tied into it at all. It just, it's a potential source for hauling brush to at a later date. That's all I have.
Carl, you mentioned an overlay on North Pine. Are you talking all of North Pine?
No, just the section between Cedar and Maple.
No. That street's been ripped up and replaced and repatched.
Unfortunately, when you start talking full relays, then I gotta get village money involved, and the village, you know. We,
Understood.
well, it's 2/3 done.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
But it was ripped up last year for sewer, and now it was ripped up this year for water.
Yep. The reason you might ask yourself why it is he does them both at the same time, it gets very expensive to do both at the same time.
Okay.
If you separate them out, it's a little cheaper. And then I'm still, again, liable for that other third with the village. You know.
Yeah, I know.
The village just doesn't have it.
We will in 2020.
Yes. Get there.
Any other questions for Carl? Hearing none, police department.
I have nothing.
Don't have library director, attorney.
No, nothing.
Presentation of accounts and other claims against the village.
The voucher list consists of payroll, deduction, contributions, deposits, and the couple of loan payments. And vouchers number 24227 through 24275, I should say not 275, 24287, in the amount of $326,455.99. Two direct deposit payrolls totaling $28,844.62. And water and sewer utility vouchers number 10211 through 10224 in the amount of $175,989.87.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Approved. Communications and miscellaneous business. Gold Cross ambulance run report is in your packet. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, comments and suggestions from citizens present? Don't have any. And we have a motion to go into closed session. Motion noting statutory exemption and roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session under 19851C.
I'll second it.
Roll